Hi, Amy here from Life's Rabbit Hole, and this is a companion video for lesson number 4 in the ebook Millionaire Mentors and the Lessons They Taught Me. And this lesson is centered around the pursuit of perfection. Now, the definition of perfect means beyond practical or theoretical improvement. So essentially, without any flaws or room for improvement. And this is really important, this concept of the pursuit of perfection, because it's really all about expectations, and we all have those. So here's a really good example. There was a time years ago when this scary movie had come out, and I hadn't seen it. I was working really hard, so I didn't have time to go see it for a while. So it had been out for probably 2 or 3 weeks before I had seen it. And everybody that I was running into at work, just randomly everywhere, had seen this movie. And I just kept getting all this feedback of, it was the best movie I had ever seen. It was a scary movie, by the way, so I love scary movies that are good. And I kept hearing, best scary movie ever. I was so freaked out. I couldn't sleep that night. I had nightmares. Like, it was amazing. You have to see it. Like, just above and beyond the normal, like, yeah, it was good, you should go see it. Like, these people were telling me I had to see it, was going to be totally freaked out, probably shouldn't see it alone because it was that scary. Well, because I had had that time that the movie had been out, I had also heard some professional reviews and things about the movie and the way it was shot and just all different sorts of things. And so I had an idea of what the movie was, how it was made. I had all these people telling me how fabulous it was. So by the time I went to see it, it was a good movie, but it wasn't amazing. Like, I was expecting to be scared, but I knew so much about it already that I guess it just wasn't that scary to me. But the problem was I went into the theater with such high expectations that the movie being good, like, that's not a bad thing for a movie. It was good. But because I thought it was supposed to be like the best scary movie I was ever going to see, of course, it disappointed me because it wasn't that scary. And so it's just funny how, had I gone into that theater with no expectations at all and it was a good movie, I would have left, happy, content, pleasantly surprised, whatever you want to call it, because it would have been a good movie and I wouldn't have had any expectations. And it's just funny how often we judge things based on our expectations. Like, the movie's good, which is right here. I expect it to be here and it was just good, so my disappointment showed. The movie was good. If I didn't expect anything and it was here, then it would have been good, right? The movie didn't change. It was good either way. It was my expectations that determined how I felt about the movie once I had seen it, right? Same thing happens with people on their wedding days. They want the wedding day to be perfect. So anytime even a little thing happens, it can throw people, it can freak them out, because all of a sudden this perfect day that they wanted to just have no flaws, and how often does that happen that anything even goes off without a hitch at all? But our expectation is so high for that day that any flaw can send some people reeling, right? Or make you think like your wedding day's ruined or whatever. I think we do the same thing with athletes. I mean, professional athletes are really good at what they do. And you might have somebody that you really like and you watch them often and they're basically flawless most of the time. But then that one time that they do something wrong and they lose the game because of it, oh my gosh, that's all you hear on TV is how awful a mistake that person made and how could they, how dare they, maybe they're not as good as we thought they were. Like, I can't believe they could make a mistake. Poor athletes, they make a lot of money, they get to do what they love doing. That's awesome. But we can't hold them to a standard that we expect them to be perfect, because there isn't a single person out there without flaws or without room for improvement. It just doesn't exist. So this is the point. We tend to measure things based against our expectations of them, and not always based on actually measuring how they turned out themselves, but against our expectations. So for example, was the party as fun as we thought it was going to be or thought it should be? Was that date as awesome or as romantic as we thought it could have been? Did I get the grade that I felt like I deserved on that assignment? Was the restaurant food as good as everybody told me it was going to be before I went to that restaurant? I've had that expectation too, where people are like, best restaurant ever, you have to go. And then you go and you're like, it's all right. Like, I don't get why people think it's the best ever. Maybe I ordered the wrong thing. But anyway, it's hard to have those really high expectations all the time, expecting something to be perfect and near perfect, and then be disappointed. But again, the flaw isn't really in the thing, it's in our expectation. So here's what you want to keep in mind. Perfection is something that can never be attained by a person, by an experience, by anything, right? Perfection is an impossible standard. So you don't want to be holding your expectations to that high of a standard, because then you're going to always be disappointed. You have to make room, right? In your mind, you have to make room for the fact that things don't necessarily have to go the way you envisioned them perfectly in order for it to be a good time, or for it to be beneficial, or for it to be something that you enjoy, or whatever. You have to make that room that sometimes being surprised or having things go a different way doesn't necessarily make it bad. It just makes it different. It might even make it better. So just having that in mind. Now, the chapter talks about the pursuit of perfection, because the way that Matthew Kelly describes it is that it's okay to pursue perfection as far as like always improving or always trying to be your best. There's no problem with that whatsoever. And it's okay to have high expectations as well. I'm not saying that you should have very low standards or anything like that. But you just have to know, he says, that you can pursue it, but you have to know you're never going to get there. Right? No matter what you do, you can always get better. You can always be improving, and that is amazing. Just don't expect to be perfect. Don't expect other people to be perfect. Don't judge your experience or yourself against a perfection standard, because then that's where you get overly critical. Right? And being overly critical is not really healthy for you either. So remember, a healthy mindset is that you can strive for perfection if you want to, as long as you know you're not going to actually achieve perfection. Maybe a healthier way to think about it is just to always strive for progress. If you're always making progress and you're always becoming a better version of you, then there's no downside, right? That's what Matthew Kelly talks about too. He calls it the best version of yourself. Always striving to be the best version of you. As long as you're striving to be the best version of you, there's not much more you can ask of yourself or other people could ask of you. It's a great way to live. If you haven't already, read the chapter that corresponds with this video and answer the questions at the end, because they're designed to help you through this process, help you implement it so that you can see results. And then contact us. We'd love for you to go to Life's Rabbit Hole and click on contact in the top right corner, and you can leave us any questions, any comments, any suggestions, anything like that. We just love to hear from you. And then not long from now, you should be receiving the next email with a link to the next video, which will be the companion video for the lesson about how our thoughts can determine our results in a lot of cases. Essentially, how our thoughts have a huge impact on everything else. Our level of happiness, our fulfillment, our success, all of that stuff. Definitely a chapter worth reading and a video worth watching. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I know how valuable it is. And thanks for letting us here at Life's Rabbit Hole join you on your path to the doorway to a new world. And remember, it's only you that can open that door for yourself, and implementing the action strategies is how you actually walk through it to that new world.